What's going on YouTube? WestHobbiesRC. So today we are back with an iconic OG Goblin 700. This is the original Goblin 700. This was a brand new helicopter that was never finished. I got for a really good price and I wanted to finish it off, update it, and put some new electronics in it. So we have the Torque 2208s and 0704T for tail, Hobby Wing 130 HV. We have a bunch of different brand new parts, washers, tail fins, skids, torque washers, O-rings to strap the battery in. We have the brand new iconic edition canopy and boom. So it's a little bit different color scheme. This is a brand new canopy, green. Looks good, but it's not very visible. And this is the color scheme that I want. So we are going to get this thing torn down, clean it up, get the new canopy and boom on it, put the new skids and tail fin, and make this thing modern day with V-bar telemetry. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get started. First thing we are going to do is get the original blades pulled off. We're going to clean this thing up brand new. It's just been sitting for many years. We're going to polish up all of the aluminum, and we're going to start with putting the new boom and new tail fin on. And then once we get it back on its skids with the new skids that we have here, we will get the motor put in, start mounting all of our servos. So let's get it stripped down. We have the tail section pulled off. We have the whole frame sitting there. So first thing we are going to do is get this fin swapped out for the yellow tail fin. And the other thing I want to do is pull these tail grips apart because there is some side to side play. So I just want to make sure that this is built properly, check for Loctite, clean all this up, and then we can get the new boom tossed onto the frame, get the tail back in, and then we can move on to cleaning that up. Tail is now rebuilt. We got the new tail fin on. I did get the play out, so I pulled the tail grips and everything all apart, the bearings, cleaned everything. The shims were there, put it all back together, and now there is zero play. Everything is smooth. So now we can get this back on the boom. But one thing I wanted to mention, if you guys are for some reason doing an iconic or an original Goblin and using the iconic canopy and boom, canopy is the same, but the boom is different on the iconic. So on the original boom, there's a metal block here that is carbon fibered into the boom, and your bolts, your nylon bolts slide in and you put your nut on from the top. But on the iconic, there's an aluminum piece that goes in here, comes up with threads, and you don't use the nuts, your bolts go in from the top. So we just had to order that. When that gets here, I'll explain it better, but let's get the tail casing on the boom and then get the new skids put on the helicopter. Got the tail all assembled onto the boom, and we got the part that we were looking for. So if you're going to take your regular Goblin 700 and use the iconic boom, as the mounting is different, you will need this right here. And there's the part number, 80358-S. BK Hobbies had it in stock. BK Hobbies had every part that I needed for the Goblin 700 in stock. They were actually the only one that had everything I needed. So check them out. So this is the insert that's going to slide into here and allow us to use our nylon bolts and bolt it down through here. So I'm going to get this installed, get the boom put into place, and then we can move on. And I also got the new skids installed, but I was waiting on the carbon fiber reinforcement plates, which is H0074-S. So that'll help strengthen these two up, and the helicopter sits lower so it looks better and doesn't flex as much on the skids. So let's get this installed and get the boom back on the helicopter. The boom mounted, we got our nylon bolts tightened down, and our belt just routed. We have to take it back off once we put the motor on and get the motor belt on. So now that this is all done, our tail is on it. Again, loose. So now we are going to move on to getting the servos mounted. Just get them put in place and make the linkages from the servos to the swash plate. Then we can mount our motor and get our ESC mounted and start wiring this thing up. And we still need to put our carbon fiber reinforcements down on the skids. Our Torque 2208 servos are mounted on cyclic. We have our servo washers. These are the torque washers for the torque servos. SAB horns with 18 millimeter from center hole to our ball link. So all three of our cyclic are mounted. So now we're going to make the push rods to go from the swash plate or servo arm to the swash plate. And then we're going to mount the tail servo that has to go under here and make that push rod. Then we can move on to mounting our motor belt, final tension the tail belt, and move on to mounting the ESC. Our linkages are done from the servo to the swash plate. I went ahead and pulled the motor mount off. I popped the tail belt off. I realized I'm gonna have to take the tail boom back off to mount the flybarless mount, because the screws have to come through the bottom over there and I can't access them. So then I'll put the tail servo and make the tail push rod. But I got the motor mounted to the mount, 23 tooth pulley put on there. Now on these Goblins, you have these springs here that hold tension. So when you put your motor mount in, these springs here ride right there, and all you have to do to tension your belt, put it in, let it spring back, and then just hold a little bit of pressure, and that is the perfect motor belt tightness. So I'm gonna get that taken care of and remove the tail boom. The tail boom is back on and final mounted this time, so the belt is tensioned. We got the tail servo installed right here, got our servo horn on, and we also got the flybarless mount put in. Tail belt and motor belt are fully tightened down and tensioned. We have our 4530 500 kV Quattrum Goblin Edition motor. So that is a piece that I wanted to leave this motor with the original Goblin. And we got our wires ran down to our 6.5mm bullet connectors. So now we can throw our V-Bar Evo in, see where the wires are going, and start mounting our Hobby Wing 130 up here. Got the V-Bar Neo mounted, 3D printed this antenna mount. I'm gonna do something different. It's too wide. I need it to be a little bit closer together because getting the canopy on and off hits these antennas. So we'll do something else different here, but that's the antenna mount. And then we've got our way down, 6.5mm bullets soldered for our motor connection. And then we have our Hobby Wing 130 sitting in place here with our RC Pro S7 connectors. So what we need to do now is figure out how I want to secure it to this aluminum mount right here. I want it to be on the aluminum, so that way it is on the cooling part of the aluminum. So we got that all done. So now I'm going to figure out mounting the ESC more solid, and then we can start getting all of our wires running, figuring out how we want to run everything. I went ahead and printed a different antenna mount. So now our antennas go back and out. Now the canopy clear is good. I got the wires ran along the frame side up through here for the ESC and for the RPM port. So I just made new wires, ran them along, cut them off. So now I need to run the tail servo wire up along here, and I can zip tie them on the inside so they'll clear the tail belt. And then I'm going to figure out what servo is 1, 2, and 3, and then start running those wires to the V-Bar Neo. We got the wiring pretty much finished up, split it off. I still need to put some heat shrink here just to tidy these wires up and put my fabric paint to seal everything off. But the V-Bar is installed. Our wiring is done all the way around. We got our telemetry line ran as well, and it goes down into the frame back there and comes up into our ESC right there. So we still need to mount the ESC, but I need to change the software to V-Bar software before I get it all tidied up. Belt is tensioned, everything on wiring is done. On the tail servo, I ended up putting, it's gonna be hard to see, but right on the inside of the frame is a servo plug so that boom can plug and unplug. So if I ever have to pull the boom off, I don't have to mess with the wiring. It's all nice and neat. So I am going to update the software, get this put where I want it. I am going to have to trim the leads off because this is just way too much wire hanging out in the front. And we're going to get some Umi grip, put that stuff down for our 12S5000, and we're going to start getting this thing completely finished up. And the only last thing I need to do is make up the tail push rod for the rudder servo to that, but it's going to be finished up very soon. And we also have to put the doublers on for the skids. Tail push rod ends are glued on both ends. Now on the original Goblin 700, 630, all that, this is all that you did. You just glued the end right into the carbon rod. But I don't like that. I want, like how the newer ones, they have the aluminum sleeve to make it stronger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this Kevlar wrap that I have, and I'm going to start wrapping the inside and tie this to the outside of the carbon, and then take a little bit of this heat shrink that I have on here already and cover it over just for a nice finished look. So I'm gonna get that done. We'll see what it looks like and then put the heat shrink on. I got done wrapping with the Kevlar string, and then I soaked it in thin CA. So that one is done and this one is done. I just need to clean up the string. And then we're gonna take our heat shrink that is right here, and we're gonna slide it down, cover them, heat shrink them, and the tail push rod is ready to go, and it is very strong now. And now the heat shrink is on, the ends are finished up, that looks good. That one there looks good. So now we can get the tail push rod tossed on the helicopter and finish our setup. Tail push rod is now installed on the boom, came out great. So now what we need to do is we're going to take some of our Umi grip. This is awesome stuff. I really like it. I've been using it on every helicopter. And we are going to cut this up into little strips, and then we are going to just put probably 3, 1, 2, and 3 on this tray. We don't need to do the whole tray. So we'll probably cut this into thirds, put that on there, and then we will get these shorter, re-put the RC Pros on, finish setup, and the Goblin 700 will be completed. I'm installing the carbon fiber stiffener plates for the actual skids. Now, these are the new version skids, so they are shorter. The whole helicopter sits lower than the original skids. The one issue that I ran into, which is not really an issue, it's more of my OCD, is when you put the doubler on right here, and this black tip of the carbon fiber, you can see this, it sticks down past the yellow. I did not like that, so I cut, sanded, and modified the stiffener. So now it'll clear and everything will look better. You can see here this one clears as well, so I just didn't want it covering the yellow stripe. So I'm gonna get the rest of these put on, and then we can move on to mounting the battery and finishing the final setup. On its skids, stiffeners, doublers put in, everything is finished wiring. I just have to put a piece of heat shrink to tie up those wires in the back. This model is beautiful. This is a helicopter I have wanted in my collection for a very long time, and I am so excited to have this thing here. Huge thank you to each and every one of you guys, Patreon, all of you helped fund this entire build. So I want to thank you guys for that. So let's get the trim put on the canopy and the foam so that way the canopy doesn't beat the boom right here. Put a piece of heat shrink on there and we can call this model done. So let's get that done. Now we have everything finished up. We got our battery mounted. We got it CG'd out. We got the last piece of heat shrink done right there to tidy up our wires, fabric paint on our connectors. This helicopter is set up and it is ready to fly. I can't get over how good this looks. This has been 13 years in the making, and the original Goblin 700 is finally complete to the way I wanted with the old Quattrum 4530 500 Goblin edition. We are running a 23 tooth motor pulley just because of the 500 kV and only running 12S. So let's toss the canopy on this thing and get one more look at it. There you go with the canopy on, the new style skid. You can see here how we had to shorten the doublers compared to the back just so it looked all together. This thing is ready to fly and I am excited. I want to give a huge shout out to BK Hobbies for having every single part that we needed to build this helicopter. I was able to purchase everything, canopy, boom, skids, O-rings, everything. They had a full list. So if you guys need iconic parts, they're the only one that I found that had iconic parts in stock. So if you guys have a original Goblin 700, iconic Goblin, or you're looking for a canopy and boom of this color, because you know they are next to impossible to find, I will link the parts in the description. So if you guys need them, you can have them. Again, everything was paid for on this build out of pocket. Huge thank you to all the Patreon and all of you guys that watch these videos and subscribe and donate, all that stuff, because that is what this build came from. It was all 100% from you guys. So thank you very much for that. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Stay tuned. Made in flight video soon. Take care and have a great day.